Let's Go Berlin had mentioned a cool coffeehouse club that featured nightly music. It was the peak of the new wave 80s and just after Bowie's Berlin period, so I figured they'd know how to do music right. The place was packed, smoke-filled, with people necessarily sharing tables. The girl next to us was about our age, long, almost LA surfer blonde hair, with wire-frame glasses and penetrating blue eyes. Petra, she smiled as we sidled into the cramped space. A young, bearded singer was in the middle of an intense song sung in German, his delivery acid and Elvis Costello-like over new wave bar chords. There was something entirely German about the song and the cadence, with strange theatrical hints of Brecht Weill. Sensing my interest, Petra whispered a translation of the chorus. "He says that he will not change his song to make it in Berlin, not one word." "I like it," I whispered back, "and he shouldn't." During a break in the music, we learned it was open mic night and that they were still taking sign-ups. "Damn, I wish I'd brought my guitar," I said, "but it's back at the hotel." Petra asked where we were staying and seemed to know the area. I could see mental gears turning. "I'm here on bicycle," she noted. "It's big and it's heavy and might even work with 3. You could sign up now and then I could take you guys to get your guitar." I looked back at her. "Yeah, let's give it a try," I said. Petra rode and steered. My brother sat on the handlebars, and I sat on the rack behind, one arm around her waist to keep from falling off, and the other holding my guitar. We cycled past a group of young women, done up for what seemed a night on the town. "Meow," one of them said to us, pawing the air. "Hookers," explained Petra. We made it back just in time for our slot. Petra's goateed boyfriend Klaus had just gotten off a late-night university class. He bought us rounds and then lit up a jeton, holding it the German way. And then it was our turn. Scanning the smoky blue depths, I hammered out the opening chords of Psycho Killer, making it extra raw, rhythmic, letting things ring. The crowd recognized the intro and began clapping in unison. My brother prowled the stage like Mick Jagger, hugging the mic with both hands, sometimes going down on one knee, his eyes manic, almost possessed. When we got to the chorus, the crowd joined in. Psycho Killer, qu'est-ce que c'est? Fa 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 fa. It was supposed to be just one song per group, but as we left the stage, the crowd began stamping for an encore. We were halfway back to our seats, but the clatter continued. Petra and Klaus urged us on with their eyes. They seemed to know how things worked. So we jumped back on stage and then broke into Pump It Up. Once again, the crowd joined in on the chorus. Pump it up until you can feel it. Pump it up when you don't really need it. My brother drew out the lines like Elvis, belting them at the end. Don't really need it. You don't really need it. That was wonderful, said Petra, kissing me on the cheek as we came back to our seats. See, now aren't you glad we got your guitar? I am, I said, still breathless. Thank you. She looked back at me with an expression that I still remember, knowing and longing. I felt her side glances on me from time to time. But after several more songs, Klaus whispered to her in German, and she whispered something back. We have to go, she said, turning to me, touching my arm. She looked into my eyes. The four of us hugged. As they headed to the door, Petra glanced back at me, mouthing something I didn't understand. Klaus took her hand, and then they disappeared into the neon night. It was a long way back, but we were still high from our set. The streets were all but deserted. Even the Kit Kat girls had called it a night. The high-rise Mercedes sign led our way, a glowing, solitary beacon. We had a morning train to catch, back to Paris, and decided on a zoo station breakfast to tide us over. Another early morning beer buzz. Afterward, there was a good hour to kill before our passage. We wandered the area, once more coming upon the Berlin Wall. I kiddingly suggested plugging in, blasting Western rock over to the other side. I don't know, said my brother. I could imagine getting shot from their side, or getting arrested on this side. Maybe, I agreed, but I want to see it again. We climbed the wooden observation platform, and to my amazement it was the same watchtower and the same East German guard from the day before, his Kalashnikov held rigid. Making eye contact, I could tell he remembered me. Still half drunk from the breakfast beer, I delivered an offhand salute and a loopy smile. The grip relaxed on his rifle. He tried to hide it at first, but then broke into a grin himself and returned the salute. I bowed, waved goodbye, and headed back down. We wandered Kurfürstendamm in the gray dawn light, the rush hour crowds beginning to build. A couple ahead caught my eye, strangely formally dressed for the setting and the hour. They looked ragged around the edges, as if they'd been up all night. Something about the man's gait suddenly clicked. I realized that it was the Count and his woman, from the train. They'd made it to Berlin after all, and not much had changed. They began arguing in rapid-fire German. She gestured angrily in his face, shouting something, then flicking a thumb at him off her front teeth. He shoved her away, and she staggered back on her heels, almost going down. Regaining her balance, she came back with a vengeance, slapping him hard across the face. He seemed stunned at first, but then it was as if the blow had sobered him up. He burst out laughing, and she began laughing too. They held hands and continued down the gray dawn boulevard, her head resting on his caped shoulder. The morning mists had begun to part, a slowly lifting veil. We passed the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial, a blood-red sun threading the bombed-out pinnacle of the scarred stone church. I thought back to the club last night, and to Petra. After we'd played, the club owner came over. "The next time you are in Berlin, call me. I will book you," he'd said. I caught Petra's glance. She smiled sadly, and then Klaus took her hand to go. And then whatever she had said to me, we never made it back.